The characters, annoying. The plot, where was it? The setting. And I'm like, this can't be it. I know this is not the book y'all been talking about. Y'all know you're wrong for recommending The Spanish Love Deception, talking about it's a good book, talking about enemies to lovers, talking about all this mess that's not true. If you ever read a story and have to Google an author, just let me see about you. It does sound like the premise of, like, you know, a children's cartoon, but I feel, you know, I could be with the author. I can see where she was going, but she did not go there. Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I am CHIOMA, or Chi, and today we got a little bit of drama on my channel. We're gonna talk about my top 10 worst books, most disappointing books, least favorite books, whatever you want to call it, of 2021. So let's get right into it. So most of these, thank gosh, I've either given away to Goodwill, got from the library, or I got on Kindle. So I don't have a lot of physical copies. So I'm gonna start with the 2 books that I do have physical copies of. And let's get this one out the way. Let's get this one out the way because I'm gonna talk mess for about 1 minute. And then all my next videos are gonna be talking about how much I love the series. So no one calls me a liar. A Crown of Good Bones disappointed me. This goes in the disappointing categories. If we're gonna talk about least favorite and worst are the same thing. If we're gonna talk about worst books and most disappointed, this one goes in the most disappointed box because I was anticipating this book so much because y'all know I love the series, and it was just disappointing. Was it bad? Was it horrible? Was it as bad as the girls are making it out to on Goodreads? No. I don't think so. I don't think so. Was it not as good as I was expecting? Yes. So if you don't know, this is the 3rd book in the From Blood and Ash series by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This one follows Poppy and I'm not gonna spoil it. It follows Poppy and gang, and there's a lot of info dumping in this book. And for some reason, when JLA writes, I don't mind her info dumping. Like, I really love her world building. Like, she can tell a story. It's just that, like, something about it, I was bored, and also it didn't make sense. Like, JLA will introduce characters, introduce villains, introduce entities, and then just bounce. She'd be like, y'all remember that? Because I don't. It just out of nowhere, and I'd be like, are they relevant? What was the point? What should the editor have taken this out? Like, what's going on? So it was just a whole lot of nothing. And this book is about 650 pages. I'd say for about 600 of those 650 pages, I don't want to say nothing, but pretty darn close to it. Pretty darn close to absolutely nothing. And I hate that for me. People who love the series, I hate that for all of us. But last 50 pages was enough to keep me really wanting the next book. So, you know, say what you want about me. I'm loyal. So this one was definitely one of my most disappointing releases, books I read in 2021. Now this next one, listen, no one come for me because I tried really hard, but spoiler alert, did not give. And let's all be honest, it did not give. But the amount of potential the storyline and the beginning had, it just did not see it through. And this has like one of my favorite tropes, my favorite premises. I love when people get into relationships, friendships, form alliances, anything under false legal pretenses. The premise of this is basically the main girl here is in love with this kind of Game of Thrones-esque TV show. She's probably really into this fandom where the main male lead is the lead actor. And online, both of them, the main male lead and this girl, are part of kind of like this extreme fandom like group where they chat, and they're almost pen pals, like they're really close. She doesn't know obviously that he's the main lead, so she ends up doing a cosplay and of the main female character of his show, and then she gets a lot of backlash on Twitter, and then he sees this and he's just like, what the heck, you guys are all weak and like just really rude, because she gets the backlash because of her weight, and he's just like, whatever, this girl's cute, and he says like, I would like, y'all should stop, and I would even love to take this girl on a date. She thinks it's a joke. It's definitely not a joke, and that's how it ensues, and behind this is the secret that they secretly know each other. My thing is, I think this book could have had 100 pages ripped out of it. Oh, not ripped out. Ooh, don't abuse books. Take it out of it, and it would have been better, because from page 48 to about page 340, I could have done without. It was just like repetitive. Nothing really happened. I DNF'd this book and then picked it back up. Don't know why. It was just not that good, and the way people loved it down, I was like, I could not even finish it. Like, it was so, like, definitely from worst books to most disappointing, this one goes in most disappointing, because I can see how a lot of people would love it. I can see that. I love how the characters are different from, like, I guess quote unquote regular romance characters. Like, they're into this fandom. It's really, really interesting. And also the main male lead has dyslexia, so she touched on so much great points that actually made this enjoyable, made it a unique read. The actual romance aspect of it, I was like, it fell flat. So this one also goes in the most disappointing. So sad. Next one, Burn for Me by Ilona Andrews. This was advertised as a paranormal romance, and it just wasn't. That's all I can say about this one. It just wasn't. And I read it so long ago that, is there even really, what was the plot? The plot is this girl who's kind of like the breadwinner of her family. I think she gets hired to find, like, she lives in a magical world, so people have kind of like magical elements, and I think she can tell when people are lying. Ooh, please correct me if I'm wrong. And she has to work to find this boy who's committing, like, this man who's committing a lot of like arson, because his element is fire, and he's like a really high up in like the magical power system. So in order to do that, she has to enlist the help of this like military rogue evil guy who's also really high in this magic system, and he's just a real jerk, and she doesn't even really like him. So I don't get where the romance comes. Like, they're both like, he likes her, obviously. She's just like, you're literally a jerk, and he literally is, but for some reason it's still a romance. It's not. I don't know, this book just didn't do it for me. Some of my favorite booktubers really, really love it, and I was like, are we reading this? It's not, whatever. It was just not what I expected. If you're looking for like a mystery, that's it. If you're just looking for a mystery, I'll read this book. Anything else, I don't recommend. The next book that was so disappointing is another paranormal romance. I don't know why I put quotes. It really is a paranormal romance, but it is Born of Darkness by Laura Adrian. This book definitely goes in the worst category, because it was just not a good book. Yeah, that's it. Like, maybe because I have very high standards of paranormal romance, and this just did not meet any of it. And I also don't really like insta-love. It was kind of insta-lovey and like kind of unrealistic, and I don't like when people use realism as a category for whether or not like a book is good or not, because like it's fiction, so it didn't have to be realistic. But just like the way the character's personality switched in certain situations did not make it really realistic. So it's basically about a girl who has lived on the run all her life, and she has the power to kind of make chance real. So like, she steals like from casinos because she makes people win the millions that she steals them, but then she also gives them off to charity. So she's a good person. And then this person is a vampire, and he ends up kidnapping her or saving her, and then like also to not kidnapping, saving her, and then taking him back to his cabin. And then he finds out that she has a tattoo that makes her one of the women in the world that can breed with the vampire, so she's like highly coveted, so now he can't leave her alone. I was like, is it 2010? Like, what year are we in that we're still doing this, like, this type of plot, I beg. So it was just bad. Let's go to my first DNF of the year, which is actually really interesting. It's Pawn by Angela J. Foy, and it's really interesting because like, this was my first DNF of the year, but it did not put me off of her books. Like, I read 2 more of her books, and I gave them 4 and 3 stars respectively. So you give authors second chances, especially Black authors. But this book, I DNF'd it because nothing happened. And the things that did happen happened way too fast. So like, we're introduced to this girl who's in an elf prison. I think it's elf prison. And then she is given an ultimatum that she can escape her imprisonment if she finds this like artifact. She used to be a killer, and that's why she's imprisoned by the elves, but the elves are really evil. So the elf guy or king sends her off this impossible task, and she's gonna do it because she wants her freedom. So the elves are the evil people. So we're getting like a little bit of backstory on her. She's kind of a morally great character. She like doesn't really care about like doing good. She more cares about her profit. And then we're introduced to the backstory of the Elf King, and I was just like, who's like, this is the villain, right? So make him a villain. Like, it was like not even like morally gray. It was like, I can't even describe it. All of the characters had too many personalities, and none of them were in cohesion with the story. So it just made no sense to me. After 100 pages, I felt like nothing happened. So I just had to stop. Like, if you're not enjoying books, just stop them. Like, if there's one thing I did well in 2021 was DNF books. So I think I DNF'd 5 books in the year, and I'm happier for it. I think, yeah. So that one, I wouldn't recommend that book, but definitely read Angela J. Ford's other books. They're fun time, they're fun time. Next, right in the middle of all this, we're gonna talk about the worst book that I've ever read in my life. No exaggeration. Inc by Amanda Sun is literally the worst book I've read in my life. And I say that because it was a bad book. Definitely in the worst book category. I had a physical copy, but I already gave it away because why would I want that? Basically, it's about this girl. She's half white, half Japanese, and I think her parents die in a fire. She goes to live with her grandparents. Then her grandparents, for some reason, ship her off to Japan to live with her aunt. She doesn't know Japanese. And then she ends up going to a Japanese school where she meets the boy who is, you know, just think all of them. Think all of the bad boys of your YA past. She's all of them. Like, you know, brooding, mean, but also the most popular, dating the most popular girl. And somehow she finds out that when he draws, things come to life. And sounds basic. I mean, it sounds okay. It does sound like the premise of, like, you know, a children's cartoon, but I feel, you know, I could be with the author. I can see where she was going, but she did not go there. Did not execute, I beg. So she finds out his secret, so they become closer because of that. And then the story gets weird, and it's very interesting because reading the story, I had to just, you know, when you ever read a story and have to Google an author, just let me see about you. And I was like, for her to be using so many of, I think, a lot of stereotypes that I feel like colloquially are misused and kind of egregious within America about Japanese culture, for her to be using them and not be Japanese, I'm just like, huh? Things about like Japanese gang culture, things about the Yakuza, things about like the politics that go on in Japan, just things that like kind of racially insensitive for someone who is outside of the culture to be writing. That's what I thought. Obviously, I'm not Japanese, so I can't really speak on that, but did not sit right with me. And she just really doubled down on like the use of like just stereotypes in Japan, and then the story just fell flat. It just fell flat. She would introduce characters, they would leave. It just fell flat. I'm like, where are we going? Where are we going? What's the end goal here? Who's the villain? I did not get it. Oh my gosh. And I've also been reading this book for 4 years. Like, so that tells you something. It's just not good. I don't recommend this book. It definitely goes in the worst book I read in 2021 category. Yeah. With this next book, I really had to give an entire side eye to the entire book talk community. And you know, I love book talk. I love book talk. I've been sipping the Kool-Aid. Like, I've been loving book talk this year. I've been obsessed. But this book, The Spanish Love Deception, y'all know you're wrong for that. Y'all know you're wrong for that. Y'all know you're wrong for recommending The Spanish Love Deception, talking about it's a good book, talking about enemies to lovers, talking about all this mess that's not true. This book was bad. This was bad. It goes in the most disappointing as well as the worst books I read, both categories, because so the premise, office enemies to lovers. And a lot of times with enemies to lovers, I'm just like, why are y'all enemies? But like, this was actually enemies to lovers because like, it's giving misogyny. The main character is really giving misogyny. But the main girl just came out of a relationship that ended really badly, and her whole family feels sorry for her, and they feel like, oh my gosh, how are you ever gonna live? You're struggling. So in order to show them that that's not true, she needs a fake boyfriend to go to a wedding when she goes back to Spain. Her office enemy offers, and she's just like, why are you offering? We're duking it out right now. We're enemies. And he just is very persistent. And I was like, why are you being so persistent? Like, it was just annoying me. But anyways, that's the whole premise basically. So it's a fake dating. I love fake dating. Hate to love. I love that. Did not execute. It did not execute because like they were really like dead ass enemies. Like they really did not like each other. It was real hate, and it was warranted throughout the whole story. I'm just waiting for chemistry, a spark, something for me to root for these characters. Nothing, and then it just switches like that. No chemistry, no nothing. Just 180. And I'm like, this can't be it. I know this is not the book y'all been talking about. I know it's not. It was. So I don't recommend this book. If you are a romance reader, don't recommend it. If you want to get into romance, don't recommend it. If you like to read, don't recommend it. And that's that. The next book is another romance, goes into most disappointing, and as The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren. This book is disappointing just because I need to stop listening to book talk hype. That's what I'm learning. That's what I'm learning while filming this. We're both learning. Don't stop listening to book talk hype. Unless it's me. Unless it's me. Here's my TikTok. Unless it's me. But so this book is again another hate to love, and it's called The Unhoneymooners because the main female lead's sister is getting married to the main male lead's brother. So they have their wedding. Everyone gets food poisoning except those two, of course. And so they need to take, or they don't need to, but so the bride gives her sister and the groom's brother the tickets to have this all-inclusive honeymoon that they can no longer go on because of the food poisoning. And so forced proximity. My issue with this book, one, was the occurrence of why they became enemies, because chili cheese fries, or maybe just cheese fries. Maybe there isn't even any chili, but chili cheese fries, and a misunderstanding based on looks. Like me, I don't know. I don't know. The thing that made them enemies literally was so mundane, was so easily interpretable and misinterpretable that it felt like nothing. It felt like you guys are two flippant characters that like this just did not need to happen at all. But it happened, and I was like, fine. Otherwise, it was otherwise it was an okay book. My favorite part is actually the ending, so the last 25% or 30%, which is actually a lot of people's least favorite books, but that's when, like, I don't know, we get something else. We get something more than just chili cheese fries. Chili cheese fries is not an important part of this book. It's just something I really stuck on. We get something more important, but other than that, the romance is okay. The ending was fun. It was just an okay book, so I was just disappointed. I did give it 2 or 1 star. I think 2 stars. I was just disappointed. That's it. Yeah. Okay, I think I have 2 more books. I'm gonna save the worst book for last. But the second to most, this one goes definitely in the most disappointing reads, and that is Fortuna Sworn by K.J. Sutton. This one's disappointing because I was just so excited for it. You know, if you know me, I'm a fantasy romance girl through and through, fantasy romance all day. And this was held up as the pinnacle, like the top, like everything you need wrapped up in one fantasy romance. And it was not that. The characters, annoying. The plot, where was it? The setting, like it was just nothing. I think what really got to me were the characters. They were not likable, and not only were the characters not likable, it was the characters for me. They lacked depth, and I don't know. I just really hated the characters, and also the lack of plot. We were never moving towards something, and I think that's kind of fine. I think it wasn't fine just because I'm a character-driven reader, but I can take character-driven I can take lack of character-driven or characters if there's plot, and there's no plot. So, and if there was, please let me know. Like, I just missed everything. It was just so boring, and I just did not care. From the beginning to end, did not care. The second book, I was just like, maybe this word picks up. Because, you know, I'll give a sophomore book in a series a chance, like if the first book was okay. And the first book was very okay. But I ended up DNFing in the second book. I ended up DNFing in the second book and then picking it back up because that's what I do. For some reason, I can't really commit to DNFs. Picked it back up, read it to the end. The end had my least favorite trope in all of time. Hate this trope. So disappointing. Just so disappointing. This series is just so disappointing. I'm not gonna read the third book. I'm not gonna read the fourth book. I'm stopping it here. It did what it had to do, and that was absolutely nothing. And now for the absolute worst book that I read in 2021. Punk 57 by Penelope Douglas. Wow. You know what? I'm side-eyeing everyone who recommended this book. Because this book was bad. This book was just bad. It was just bad. Like, it was just not good. Like, am I tripping? No, I'm not. It was just not good. Like, genuinely not good. So basically, the premise is amazing. Again, I love this. So it starts off with pen pals, childhood pen pals. It's a guy and a girl, and the guy stops pen paling the girl, and then she's just like, oh, what the heck is going on? And both of them, it's kind of like, you know, they both live double lives. They can be themselves with the pen pals, and it's school, they are different people. So a lot of things happen to the guy's life, but he ends up finding out who the girl is in real life, and then like ends up being able to infiltrate her school somehow, and they go to school together. He sees her, and he's just like, oh wow, they're two different people. The premise actually, you know what, there's a lot of plot holes, or maybe I just wasn't paying attention, but the main thing is the kids are in high school. Is it just me? Am I the drama? Like, what's going on? I was just like, every time I was reading this, they'll be like, fourth period, go to class. And then after class, it's like, wait, like, why are we putting children in such adult situations? Like, am I the only one? I don't think I'm the only one, but that just really turned me off. Whether or not the plot, the characters, anything about that was good, I do not know, and I do not think so, but that really just turned me off personally. But I know a lot of people who love this book. So I'd say proceed with caution. Just know that it is children in high school. I think everyone's 18. I don't know. But they are in high school. So that's that. Yeah, that's it. So those are my top 10 worst books of 2021. Let me know what you think of any of these books. Let me know if you like any of these books. If you agree with my opinion, disagree, let me know. I'll talk. If you made it to the end of the video, please put this emoji. Let's make it the skull emoji because it's dramatic, and this is a dramatic video. Maybe not, who knows? But let's put the skull emoji. If you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys later.